All right, let's get started. Welcome to this edition of our Thermal Mermaid webinar. If you've found yourself here, it's because you've been struck by curiosity on how to start up a working business, and you could be in business as soon as this weekend. I know how to do it, and that's what we're going to talk about here. Now, if you're listening to the replay, this may be edited out a little bit. If I edit it, it'll only be to deduct a little bit of maybe side conversation from some questions that happen to come in. If we get off to the side a little bit too much, then I might just chop that out, truncate it so that we don't lose interest of anybody who's listening to the replay. Otherwise, this will be the full conversation, and we are going to talk about how to build a business at home, the world of online businesses right now as it stands. And if you want to know a little bit about me, my name's Jennifer Tynan. I have a formal education in science, specifically anthropology. I worked as an archaeologist for over a decade on and off as a subcontractor for various environmental companies in the New England area. I was a field archaeologist, which meant I would be given a contract by my supervisor. I'd be sent out into the woods, sometimes with a partner, sometimes by myself, and I would dig ditches to satisfy requirements for an archaeological survey. And this would be a type of a test before a construction company would go out and rip up a piece of land. And so my job was to survey the land to make sure there wasn't anything potentially important that might be there before construction went in. So essentially my job was as a data collector. Now, the thing about a cool job like archaeology is that eventually you realize that you want to live indoors. And so you need to think about how your degree is going to translate into a mortgage payment. And just when you're not sure if there's a future in digging up pieces of glass and nails in the woods, right around that time is when your back starts to get stiff. And then the winters here, and especially in New England, they start feeling a little colder, right when you start feeling it in your bones. Well, if this happens and you're still in your 20s, well, then you just might want to think about picking up some other hobbies or interests, and that might include a side job. And so that's exactly what I did in the mid-2000s when everybody else was on MySpace. I had an obsession with eBay. And that turned into a snowball of a $15,000 to $20,000 a week in sales every single week. And so the first thing that happened when I hit that level on eBay, it didn't happen overnight. It happened pretty quickly though. It happened after about 3 weeks of having an eBay store. But the first thing that happened was that I realized the internet is real. And the second thing that happened was, like every successful casino, the house always wins. And I was quickly paying eBay about $7,000 a week. And so after all the cost of my goods and the shipping costs, I was able to just barely pay my household needs, which was fine because I was working at home. But I was working around the clock, never taking a break. My kids were still small, and eBay was winning a huge portion of the funds that I was earning for them. Now, I could go on forever about eBay and Amazon after years of working on those platforms, but it was when I took my business off those platforms and online out into the wild blue internet, right around 2008, that was when my store exploded, my main retail store. And within 2 years, I had a brick and mortar retail store because I had to store all the inventory somewhere. So I had cars zipping past my storefront window. I had $500,000 in inventory sitting in my store. And at the most, I only employed about 7 people at any one time to help me manage. But you know, they were busy and they served their purpose at the time. And now the internet has expanded. And again, the internet is like the Wild West. The things I did 20 years ago will not work anymore. You can't do what I did 20 years ago. The things I did 10 years ago don't work anymore. And then in the last few years, I've watched waves of people trying to get their foot in the door with these new Shopify stores, these snap together e-commerce stores, which didn't exist 10 years ago when I first started. And what happens is most people, they flop, and when they flop really hard. Sometimes you see an example of someone who will score at a store that they've popped together from Shopify, and their sales, they just hit it right out of the park. Those people, I promise you, those people aren't new. They showed up already knowing what they're doing. They know how to work. They know what they're going to be selling. They know how to market. Those people have been in the business for a while, even if they've just utilized that type of platform recently, and you just sort of see them showing up. Now, it is kind of misleading to someone who, just some random person who has an idea on a Saturday They reach out to create a Shopify store because it's relatively easy, it has a low barrier of entry, and then what ends up happening is the store just sits there. Nothing happens at all. So I've been doing this for a few decades. I have dozens of websites. My main businesses have always been e-commerce. I know that there are 20 ways to Sunday to build a business online, but I'm not really going to get into the things I don't know about. I know that there is affiliate marketing, and I know that there is email marketing, and those are not my specialties. And so you can certainly incorporate that into what we're going to discuss. There are excellent reasons to use affiliate and email marketing, but that's not the thing that I know how to do. So what we're going to talk about is what I know that I know, and we're going to discuss that. I'm going to tell you what works right now, what works at this minute insofar as e-commerce, so that you don't have to waste your time with all of these fly-by-night things that pop up into your face to promise you something that they can only promise you the thing that they have. They can't promise you that you'll be in business tomorrow. And I'm going to tell you what my prediction is going into 2019. Now, obviously, I don't know the future, and I'm not pretending to have any special knowledge about what 2019 will hold, but I have been doing this for 20 years, and I have kind of a good grasp on the trend and how the trend of e-commerce will be moving forward, and also what the big corporations and the companies are kind of, what their intentions are going to be, how they handle us as e-commerce builders and store owners. So there's also kind of a contentious relationship between e-commerce owners and Google, and how the search engines have changed over the years, and that has affected business greatly. And as time goes on, these niches, these specialties of knowledge, they separate out with so much detail. There's so much need for understanding SEO now than there was 15 years ago, that it becomes its own specialty. And it's very hard to be expected to start up an e-commerce business or to start up a business online and think for any second that you're going to be able to absorb 10 years worth of knowledge of SEO, search engine optimization information, in order to incorporate into your store. It's not a reality. So I'm going to break down where I think e-commerce is going. I'm going to give you a great example of a business model that I think would be wildly successful. At least it works for me. It's one of my business models that I rely on. It's one of the ones that I'll be moving forward, working on into the future, coming into 2019, partially because I really enjoy it, and partially because I've been doing this long enough where I recognize other people coming into some business niches are not necessarily competition. So, for example, if I'm going to show you, if I'm going to build a store and I'm going to open up that little store, a children's dress shop on Main Street, USA, you're not my competitor if you're living in Main Street, Nebraska, USA, and I'm living in Main Street, Rhode Island, USA. It's just not, it's not a problem to reach out and build a community of people doing the same thing around you. And so almost always, when you're building a business that you're actually bringing out into the real world, that you're incorporating a faction of it, a part of it into the real world, you can build a community of those types of people who are doing the same business, and you're not competitors with each other. And we can get into why that is. There's actually an entire school of thought that's very successful in business as to why that is later on. But so far as what we're going to be doing here, we're going to be talking about e-commerce, and I'm going to be breaking down specifically a business model that works, that you can start immediately. Now, who is this webinar for? So this is a business model that allows you to make luxury soap and cosmetics in your own home for pennies on the dollar, and it teaches you how to build a market around you so that you can have your own bath and cosmetic line. And this business is for both men and women. You might think that sounds like a woman's business because you're doing crafty things in the kitchen, or you're making soap and smell pretties, but it turns out that men like to build businesses too, and some of them can be very good at it. So this is an equal potential for both men and women. And of course, let's cut to the chase. With the information that I'm going to give you, you could flat out be in business this weekend. Could you make $800 this weekend? Yeah, you could. Possibly. I don't know what you could do. Depends on how fast you learn, how well you work, or where you live. I do sometimes make that much on a whim when I go out and sell products on the weekend. It does happen. So it is a reality. But I've spent hundreds of hours learning how to be efficient. I have an actual physical place where I can go and set up my business on the weekends and reach out to people. So that's a reality, and yours will be different. And so it depends on how you can organize that around you. Is this for the fly by night, get rich quickers? All right. So I have to add this in here. There's a certain percent of people who come by who are listed. I don't want to say you guys, but you know, you're out there. There's always one of you that you always fall into this category. For some reason, whenever I explain to a group that you can start a business immediately or with a low barrier of entry, just a few dollars, you always get one of those types that somehow interprets that. When they hear that, what they hear is they're going to be making 6 digits by Wednesday. They have to do absolutely no work. They have to have no skill. That's not a thing. That's just not a thing. Can you start making money immediately? Yes, you can. How much? Up to you. I can't tell you that. I know what I did when I first started, and it was satisfactory enough for me to say, oh, this is real. I'm going to come back and keep working on this. And that worked out really well for me. So can you do it? Yeah. Could anybody do it? I mean, you don't have to be a scientist to run this job. You have to have some common sense, and you have to have a certain set of responsibility in order to, you know, be creating cosmetics or soap in your own kitchen. There is a level of, you know, where intelligence meets responsibility that you have to be in possession of in order to do this. Can anybody do it? Yeah, anybody can do it. Again, it's up to you. Now, in this particular business model, it creates a foundation for an internet platform and a real world platform without having the overhead costs of running or actually owning a business. So there's no rent involved. There's no finding a lease for a store or anything along those lines. But you are working, or you potentially, depending on how you want to do it, you could potentially be working out in the real world face to face with customers and also online, because I know how to do both of those things. And what I've discovered is that by incorporating a hybrid of both of those things, my sales have increased, and the store just works better. It runs really well. It's also, you get more feedback, and it's a lot more fun, I think. But of course, that depends on your personality. So this is a hybrid model that you can really decide for yourself how much of it you want to work online and how much of it you want to put out there into the real world. Not all businesses, by the way, translate to a brick and mortar store, and of course vice versa. So not all businesses you can just take from an online platform and then just go out into the world and start expecting that you're going to have a consumer base. And not all brick and mortar stores or not all service-based businesses can you do anything with online. So this model that I have that we're putting forward, this model does work nicely. It is a nice blend of a hybrid, and I'm going to explain that to you. This is also a model that takes some element of follow through. So if you're a person who wants to work right now online and build a business, but by 5 o'clock tonight you want to drive an ice cream truck, this might not hold your attention, because even though you can get started immediately, it kind of needs to be understood that you're building a business as you go along. And the more work you put into it, the stronger it becomes. And the intention is that it's going to last you a while. And is this for the person who has no money to start with? Almost, but not no money. Let's be realistic. If we're talking no money, you need to get a job like yesterday. But this is a business where you're not going to need to take out any loans. As a matter of fact, every business I've ever started, and it's somewhat of a game for me, actually. I find it to be more of just a personal hobby. Every business that I've ever started, I've never started off with more than $200. So as far as a bare minimum, if I were going to go into my kitchen right now and get to work, I could take $7 worth of product and turn it into $55 by the weekend. But keep in mind, I already know how to keep my costs low, and I have a system set up for selling my products because I've been practicing this model for a while. So who is this business for? This is for anybody who wants to try out a business without the risk of blowing up their bank account. You don't really need too much money. But more importantly, it's for someone who realistically wants to build something for themselves in a realistic way that can be done without a high barrier of entry. So what are we going to get into here that's going to help you launch your own business right now? Essentially, this is a course that's been compounded into the essential lessons that you need to create a cosmetic line to start your own business. And now when I say create a cosmetic line, I'm not talking about finding cosmetics over in China from Alibaba and having them shipped to you across the sea. I'm talking about you creating your own cosmetic line from scratch. This is something unique to you that no one else can copy. When you see how you can do this for pennies, one, you won't even want to pay the cost of shipping something from another country to resell over again. And by the way, there are a ton of these business courses out there that teach you how to buy cheap Chinese merchandise for a couple of bucks and then resell for 500%. And look, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that the math works in that case. But you can bet what happens here is as soon as you launch your electric flower pot, there are 40 other guys online popping up a Shopify store with not only the same item, but the same stock photo. And this will happen within a day or two of you receiving in your electric flower pot because the shipment went out on this big cargo shipping compartment and 20,000 electric flower pots were distributed across the United States to 6 other guys who had exactly your idea. And so what happens is everybody's popping up their electric flower pot on some Shopify store. And then after 24 hours, your 500% markup gets found all over the internet for 250% markup, and then 100% markup, and then 60% markup. And after 3 days, you're stuck with 500 electric flower pots. And so what's happened to about 90% of the people who sell their goods in this way, who subscribe to this model, is they have a great idea. They find an item that sells. They invest in it, they bring it over here, and then all of a sudden, they can't compete in a market like that because their item isn't going to sell with 6 other guys who might have taken that course, who came across that great idea. So this is not that model. The other thing that happens is in real life, you might never want to buy $100 skin cream from a kiosk at a mall ever again. So not only will the markup start looking unreasonable with other types of retail prices when you're just out in your regular life, you start to become aware of exactly what kind of chemicals are put into these expensive creams and these sort of fake-ish anti-aging products. And I say fake-ish because I don't have an example in mind, but some ingredients do promote youthful appearances. So it's not a lie that you can purchase something and it's going to make you feel younger, it's going to make your skin feel nice. But what happens is you'll start to recognize that there's a lot of nonsense. And also, there are a lot of chemicals being peddled to you out in the mall and out in the retail stores. And you'll start to notice which ones are real and which ones are something that you kind of would raise your eyebrow over. But most importantly, when you look at the cost of making these things and you compare it to the price people are willing to pay for these types of items, the first word that will come to your mind is a very humbling "oh." And you realize that this is a business that you could start up right now and participate in something that's one of the world's most lucrative marketing engines. Now, this course is broken into 2 parts. The first part is a 10-module course. It starts off with learning how to make your flagship products, which is a line of artisan soap. Now, when you hear cosmetic line, you might be thinking of eyeliner, wrinkle cream, shimmer lotions, and we'll get into that. But in the first lessons, we're going to start out by teaching you how to make soap. Now, the first thing that's important is soap sells to everybody. Everybody buys it, everybody needs it, and your goal in your business is to start making money right now. You can start making chemical-free natural soap as soon as this weekend, and even if you set it up at a pretty table at a yard sale in front of your house, people will buy it. If you start off with gold shimmer lotion, you've narrowed your consumer market down to just those people willing to buy that. So soap sells to everybody. Now, if you just suddenly felt underwhelmed hearing that you can make soap and sell it in your front yard, that's not this course. So you could do that, but that's not what this course is. But I want you to keep in mind, which luxury bath stores have popped up in the last few years over in the mall that people coo and fawn over? Yeah, you might have a name in mind. And guess what their flagship products are? Pretty, colorful soap that they set up like a deli, and you can buy a tiny little piece that you cut off yourself in exchange for a whole pocket full of gold doubloons. And here's another important point when you're starting up this business. Soap is not regulated by a special consumer oversight group in most states. And this depends on where you live. Lotions and butters might be regulated by consumer protection, and you may need a permit. Now, if that idea already starts to feel overwhelming, don't worry, you're not alone. But that's why this course organizes that information, and it starts you off with small steps that you can start doing right now and give you the information that you need to organize your business by showing you all the resources that you need. It's a very common mistake that some people will get really good at making soap and then naturally start making other cosmetics, lotions and creams because it's easy and you're using mostly the same ingredients. And what happens is they become a regular at their local farmer's market, and then all of a sudden they get a visit from consumer protection because they didn't have the right kind of permit. So we're going to cover that in this course and organize that information so that you don't need to blindly hunt that information down. It's all there, the links to the resources, depending on where you live. If you're in Montana, your rules might be different from Florida, and you can actually go down and select your state to see what the requirements are for setting up your cosmetic business. And this way you don't have any unforeseen surprises, and you know what you can do so that you can start your business right this minute. Now, lesson 1 is going to show you around the dashboard. Lessons 2 and 3 are going to teach you 2 methods in soap making. Lesson 2 will teach you the cold process soap making, which takes 4 to 6 weeks to cure, but you'll learn how to make beautiful colors and designs and swirls, and you'll get a handle on how to control the recipe so that you can get these beautiful artistic effects. Now, lesson 3, on the other hand, this teaches you the hot process method. And this just means that you cook the soap so that it's ready to use the very next day. This creates a completely different look. It's more natural and rustic, and you can package these and sell them in as soon as 24 hours. So this is where you want to go if you want to start making money tomorrow. Lessons 4, 5, 6, and 7 are packed full of information on how to use additives and ingredients so that you can really customize the craft that you want to make. Here we get into the colorants, the fragrances, the recipes, and they become more complicated as you go along. You could spend a ton of time in these lessons just learning about every aspect of soap making, and you can make it as simple as you want, or you could really get into some complicated stuff. This is really up to you, but the information is there for you if you want it. Now, we can't just leave you with a cosmetic and soap makers course and then just say, okay, good luck. So this is where your questions will just be starting. So in lesson 8, we're going to cover packaging and storing your items. You might reach a point where you want to step it up a notch and you don't want packaging to blow your budget. So you can get a lot of great information there in lesson 8. This also includes how to make labels for your product line. When you're first starting out, you quickly realize that you don't necessarily want to buy 10,000 label sheets from a printing company. So you'll need to make some. And now you're getting into a whole new learning curve of graphic design and image software. Well, in lesson 8, we'll make this as easy as possible for you. I've already created hundreds of label designs, and I've created files for them and that you can download and print these. You can print them just as they are, and you can write in your information, or you can open them on your computer and you can do a little bit of editing. The skill level is really where you want to bring it, and of course this is free. Members on this course will have the free run of this section, and you can have unlimited downloads for whatever labels that you want to use. Now, for those of you who get the product creation part completely under your belt, and now you want to take the next step and you want to jump out and explode into the world, lesson 9 and 10 are going to help you do that. This is where you're going to find all your resources and connections for doing business and building your brand. Lesson 9 gives you the list of online platforms where you can sell your products. Here, I'm going to show you the reality of setting up your brand page, the costs involved, which one converts more than others, and how you connect these platforms to create a centralized entity to get your customers to come back to you. Now, that's just an online presence, and you might want to be online, but you don't necessarily want to join the matrix quite yet, and going out into the real world face-to-face with people is more what you had in mind when you thought of creating a business. If that's more your style, then there is a surefire path to building that type of business, and you don't have to be the owner of a full-blown storefront. We can certainly show you how to do that with just about the space that you have in your car. So that means becoming a vendor for your very own product. And you'll start to see the benefits of becoming a vendor and how easy it is to sell in your community. This includes joining venues like farmers markets, flea markets, Renaissance fairs, state fairs. You only need your table and the products that you've created. Now you might be thinking, no, I don't think there are places like that around me. Well, that's why in lesson 9 we build a directory for those places, and we filled it out with just about as much contact information for venues in your area. Did you know that in the United States there are over 100,000 active farmers markets? Yep, I know this because I'm constantly adding this to the market directory. So if you're one of those guys who really wishes they could build something of their very own, but you always have an excuse, yep, I'm taking those excuses away from you by giving you all the information you need to get started and get active. In lesson 9, I cover how you can use real-world locations and incorporate that with your online presence to bounce these things off each other to help grow your business. Now, I told you, this is a real business model. This isn't one of those courses where you pop up a website and then you blow dandelion seeds into the wind. This model grows a physical, tangible business. Now for lesson 10. Now, by the time we get to lesson 10, there are always more questions for resources that you need that you can think of as you go along. And so when certain questions arise, we want to create solutions for you so that you'll need access to these resources. Like, where are you getting your supplies? How can I get those supplies in my area? Do I need insurance for a real business? I know a brick and mortar store often has an insurance policy. How does that apply to me? Do I know how much to sell my products for? My grocery store charges $10 for the items sitting on my table, but that kind of seems crazy to me. So how do I handle that? Well, in lesson 10, I've also come across those questions in my own business, and I'm here to show you that information in an organized fashion. Now, we're not just tying up the loose ends here in lesson 10. By the time you get to lesson 10, you might realize, okay, so this course taught me everything I need to know about making soap, and it gives me about 24 recipes to work with, but I only like 3 of those. Can I really do this with 3 recipes? And the short answer is yes, you can. However, we don't want you to feel like you've hit a dead end. So in lesson 10, we've added 12 ebooks. Yes, 12. Not an ebook. There are 12. One thing you'll start to pick up on as you go through this material is that I'm not new here. I'm not one of those internet people who just pops up, who took a course on how to make a course and then scraped the internet for information. There are 12 books that I've published on Amazon over the past several years, and you can go over there and you can buy them in paperback if you want to, or you can go over to lesson 10.4 and you can download them for free as a member of this course. That's 12 books. 10 of them are independent titles, while the last 2 are volume sets, and they contain over 500 recipes combined. Now, these are recipes that my daughter and I had written together over the years, and we've made every single one at one time or another. Now, there are 500, so of course some are better than others, and there are some that I prefer to others, but we've put them all out there, and whichever ones that you like, that's completely up to you. Now, right now you have enough information to probably keep you busy forever, but if you recall back in the beginning, I said that this was a 2-part membership course. Yeah, that was just part 1. And now we move on to part 2. Part 2 is its own monster. In part 2, I'm building an entire recipe directory that includes not only the full recipes, but step-by-step instructions, full photos, images, and instructional videos for each product. In the recipe directory, you can select the type of product that you want to make, whether it's a facial mask or a clay soap or a salt bar. You click on that item and you get access to a page where you can watch an instructional video for that recipe. You get the details and notes for that specific recipe, and you can print the recipe directly from that page. This is almost as good as if I was standing in your kitchen teaching you how to make each recipe by myself. Now, this is constantly being built. It's constantly being added to every week. Every week I add more recipes, but unlike watching these videos over at my YouTube channel at Thermal Mermaid, these videos include the full recipe and instructions for each product, so it's not just for entertainment. Now, you can copy these recipes, you can replicate them, and you can use them for your own business. By the way, in case you didn't know, you can use all my recipes for your products and business. I don't have any ownership. I don't claim an ownership over a recipe that I put out into the world. You can use these recipes for your business. You can tweak them, you can change their names. This is entirely up to you. You don't have to be worried about stealing any of them. It's kind of like if someone shows you how to make a pumpkin pie, you can take what you learned and you can make all the pumpkin pies that you want and you can sell them for yourself. You don't need permission from the guy who invented pumpkin pies in order to sell that thing. So this information, it's for you to build your business. Take it and use it. Now, if you want to get inside and start looking around, you'll need a membership. Now, remember I told you that you can start your business as soon as this weekend and you don't need to take out any loans to start this business? Now, you might think, for some of you, the ship stops here because this is a paid membership, and after everything I've explained to you about the material inside, it makes sense that this is equal to any university course that would be sold for what you can expect to pay if you were to sign up for a class, say, at your local community college. Well, that's not the case here at all. If you were to sign up right now at your local community college, you'd be expected to pay about $300 for a 3-credit course before the books. And after you buy the books, one single course could cost you over $600. And as you already know, all my books are already included inside the course, so that doesn't cost you anything additional. Now, if you poke around the internet for a little while, you'll come across some Udemy courses that teach you just a fraction of what I've put into this course that charge you anywhere from $80 to $149. But that is not what we're doing here. Now, I'm not going to dangle a carrot and keep going on about this. I'm just going to tell you straight out. If you sign up for an invitation to this course, you can join me over inside the membership part for $1.99 a month. Yes, I'm not kidding. That's actually what I said. I didn't build this to pitch it to bait anybody. The whole point is to organize my information and make it available so people who are like me can learn how to start somewhere. Now, for the first 100 people who join, you'll get this membership at $1.99 per month. That will never change for as long as you want to be a member. You will always be a full-fledged member with 100% access to what I post for just $1.99 a month. Now, after 100 people sign up, it's going to go up to $2.99 a month, and that'll increase for every 100-person increment. And those increments are sort of my guesstimate on what I'll need to charge in order to make the internet traffic available to everyone, as I need to upgrade my internet services as we go along. So if you can see the value in joining me here for the membership experience, then you really won't want to wait. And so if you can see the value here in joining me for this membership experience, you really won't want to wait, and you'll want to be one of the first and earliest subscribers. Now, you don't have to keep your membership. If you want to cancel, you can do that whenever you want to. You can change your mind. If you want to come back and rejoin, it'll be whatever price it's listed at that time, but you can always do that if you want to. And you'll need to receive an invitation to join this. Now, in order to get your invitation, all you need to do is drop your email in the form below, and an invitation will be sent right over to you. You can take your time. You can think about it. You don't need to sign up immediately. You can get your invitation, and then you can do it in a couple of days from now. You don't have to sign up today. But the $1.99 price is only for the launch of this course, and it's only for those first 100 slots. So once they're filled forever. I think it's pretty clear that after everything I've talked about, putting up $1.99 is pretty much a no-brainer. You get full access to everything that I share. Your privacy is completely secure. I'm not a member of any sort of email sharing group. I don't use your email for anything other than the topic at hand. I do not process, hold, handle credit card information. All that goes through a secure channel. It's not stored on my website. $1.99 means $1.99. There's no fine print. There's no one-time additional activation. None of that nonsense. It's just what it is. So I guess at this point now I am ready to take questions from you guys. If anyone wants to type a question in the box, go ahead. I see you guys are talking to each other, so if you want to do that, just put your question in caps so I can see it. And Emily says, what happens when I come across pages with missing information? Yep, there's a few of those. If you come across a page that has a missing video, it's because I'm actually working on that page in real time. Like I said, I'm constantly building these pages. It never ends. You can think of it like a magazine subscription where you get new recipes every month, and I have bullet point checklists for each of the pages and all the information that I fill in. So when it comes down to it, this project really has turned into its own monster, and every page with a video and an entire blog post and a printable recipe filled with all my personal notes, and each page is about a day's worth of work for me. You might be able to read it and watch the video in 20 minutes, but it's a full day for me to create it, and I'm adding constantly things every single day, so this never ends. Next question. How much of what I show you do I actually do myself? Yeah, that's a good question. The short answer is 100%. Everything I show you as far as techniques to build your business is 100% from my experience. The thing about this is that you can do any, all, or none of these methods. You can make a cosmetic line and you could choose only to sell it online if that's what you want to do. Or you can not touch a computer at all. And if you just want to make a bath line for your church fundraisers and sell them at your Christmas holiday parties, that's entirely up to you. Is this my main business? No. I have several stores that I've built over the years, 3 of which I focus on primarily. Like I said, I do e-commerce. I always sell physical products. That's always what I've done. I do sell this product line actively. I do this all the time as my business. But again, it's not my main business. It's one of several that I own. I do go out every Sunday with my family to a huge market, and I sell just the products that we make. My entire family is involved in our soap making creations, in our cosmetic line. Even my younger nieces show up, and it's because it's something that they can do and it works. And if there's ever a thermometer on whether or not a little business is going to make you a few dollars, then task a teenager to do it. Because if it doesn't work, you're not going to get them to come back. They'd rather be out doing other things. Are there any more questions in the queue? Oh, I missed, yep. How is this different from just going on YouTube and learning this business? Yeah, that's a fine question. YouTube is amazing. I wish I had it back in my eBay days. I could talk about it forever. The short answer is you can do that. You don't need to join my course if you really want this information. At the end of the day, a real entrepreneur is a certain type of animal. And if you want to figure out how to do something, you're going to do it. Even if you have to reinvent the wheel, if you have to build a cart to get to the spot, to build your store, you are going to do it. It might take you 2 years, but you will do it if that's really what you have your mind set to. Now, what I've tried to do in my course is organize as much information as I possibly can. And this is all the information that I've had to hunt down over the years and present it so that you can have it instantly in front of you as soon as you need to know. And I'll tell you, it sure as beans makes it a lot easier and faster, and it might even make you feel more confident and more organized. But if you really want to go your own way, and if I gave you enough information today to spark an idea, then go for it. And by the way, that's how I did it years ago. Will my prices change? Yeah. As I build more and add more content, after a while, it'll eventually go up. It won't ever be for the people who signed up already. If you are a member, your membership fee will never change. I won't do that to anybody. Are there any other questions? Anybody else? All right. All right, guys. Well, I hope to see you inside. If you're a listener of the repeat of this webinar and you still have any questions, feel free to post them below because I'll browse the comments every now and again. And if I see a question that I can help you with, I'll be happy to answer that. And with that, I guess we'll end this webinar tonight. Thank you for all of you guys who popped in. I see you guys have been chatty, but I really wasn't able to follow the chat. So hopefully I'll see you inside and come on into the course because that is where I hang out. You can find me in there.